Hello, listeners. A warm welcome to the Complete Life Show. I'm your host, Lisa Thamides, and I'm so glad that you've tuned in. This show is all about finding peace and well-being through the mind, body, spirit continuum. My hope is we can all take away nuggets of information from all the wonderful people I interview to help us lead our very best lives. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Heather Pardon. Heather is the founder and CFO, Chief Fun Officer of That Daisy Chick, where she creates and sells fun and upbeat products that celebrate the power of joy, daisies, and living from the heart. Heather developed this business after having spent many years as a life coach and heart math mentor because she wanted to offer people fun, simple ways to add more joy, heart, and positivity to their lives and to the lives of people around them, particularly in the wake of the pandemic and the current state of the world. She's just launched her new Etsy shop, The Daisy Shop Canada, where she can be found with her unique daisy-themed designs. Heather lives here on Salt Spring Island, where she drives a daisy-fied art van, lives in a home filled with daisy paraphernalia, and has a dog named Daisy Mo. She truly is that daisy chick. I honestly really wanted to have Daisy. I wanted to have you, Heather, because you do make me always feel so happy and joyful, and you share your light. And I feel I want people to hear your story about how you've come to this place and how Salt Spring has brought you full circle to this place where you're at right now. So tell us your story and start wherever you want to share.
Well, first of all, let me say I'm really grateful to be here today, Lisa, and excited to have this opportunity to be on your show. And congratulations on the success you're having with your show. And likewise, I am grateful to you for the joy that you spread in my life and the lives of people around us. You also are a beacon of light, so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Heather.
As for my story, well, how much time do we have today? It's a meandering story. I'll start way back a few years ago when I was living in Ottawa. This was back in around 2008, 2009.
Oh, dangerous times.
Those were dangerous times indeed. That was the recession. Life was tough for a lot of people. And it was certainly rough for me. Because at that point, I was in my early 40s, kind of hitting that midlife crisis that I think a lot of women and a lot of people enter, where I was beginning to question things and do a deeper level of soul searching. And I'd reached this point where I had created a life that many of us, the kind of life that many of us yearn for. So I had the right kind of house in a very trendy neighborhood in Ottawa. I appeared very successful. I had a couple of businesses. I was a personal trainer as well as operating a bed and breakfast in my home. I had a very busy social life. And I drove the right kind of vehicle and took vacations, all that kind of thing. So from the outside, I looked relatively successful. What people couldn't see was at the time, actually, I was miserable. I was also in a lot of debt. My businesses weren't doing that well. I had gone through a series of relationship meltdowns. So from that point of view, my life wasn't doing too well. And you could say my life was fairly chaotic, a lot of stress, and I certainly wasn't very happy. So I had spent so many years kind of pursuing this ideal of happiness that we're, taught to chase after. And reached the point where I realized this is not working for me at all. So as life would have it, 2009, in the spring of 2009, a friend of mine invited me to go see a house that she had put an offer on. And at the time, I was not at all considering selling my house. I was going to stay in Ottawa for the rest of my life, as far as I knew. And long story short, as a result of that meeting, I spontaneously decided, inspired by my friend, to put my house up for sale. So 2 days later, so it went from Wednesday, I had no intention of selling my house, to Friday, I had a for sale sign on my lawn. And what that meant was not only was I rendering myself homeless, but I was also rendering myself unemployed and a whole bunch of other things. What happened from that pivotal moment was I did end up selling my house, and I had to make a decision as to what to do next with my life, because I had just put myself out of business. I had just rendered myself homeless. And as a result of a lot of soul searching, I decided to pursue a dream that had long been kind of simmering below the surface, and that was to drive across Canada.
Right.
So I decided to buy an RV, much to the horror of my family, my mother, and many of my friends who were absolutely shocked that I would do such a thing, just give up this great house and life that I had, and security and all those kinds of things, to become a free spirit and follow my heart across Canada and see what would happen. And what was particularly interesting to me at the time was the number of people who said to me that they loved what I was doing, but they didn't feel that they could do it. They say, yeah. Heather, I love it. It's great that you're doing this, but I can't. And that has stuck with me for so long, as, you know, something I've coached people on over the years, is that I can't mentality. Anyways, fast forward, that was 2009. I left Ottawa in my RV, and my initial plan was to go to Tofino and drive back to Ottawa and then figure out what I was going to do with my life. What in fact ended up happening was that I drove out to the West Coast, landed on Vancouver Island, decided to stay in Nanaimo, and continued to follow my heart for many years and meander a fair bit, doing again more soul searching, until one day an acquaintance invited me to Salt Spring Island to house sit for 6 weeks. That was back in 2013. And I knew at the time, my heart just went, yes, that's it. That's where I need to go. And that's how I ended up on Salt Spring.
I love that story. And it's always fascinating to me to hear how people actually ended up on this beautiful island. Because there's something very magical. And the people that have moved here and genuinely made fabulous lives here all have a similar theme. They say they just got here and there was something about this place that they felt like it was home.
I actually had visited Salt Spring a few months prior to that invitation. And I did, like you said, I felt a magnetic draw as that first visit, like energetically there's something here, and I felt it was kind of a soul connection to landing here, that this is where I was meant to be at home.
Beautiful. And I think I met you a couple of years or not long after that, and we've watched each other evolve and grow with our businesses. So let's go from that place, because I know you used to do a lot of coaching work. You're a very empathetic, kind, positive human being, and you've supported many people through different challenges in their lives. And that you've gone through your own process, like you've been involved in all sorts of fun activities, of course, and you push yourself through barriers in your sports activities. I think my son called you, in the nicest possible context, did he call you, she's a beast, because of how much you can cycle?
I believe he did say that.
He has such respect for you, as we all do. So tell us a little bit now about what the connection to daisies is and where that has changed you in a relevant fashion. Because, you know, it all seems very tongue-in-cheek, the daisy chick. You're anything but a fluffy, empty-headed person. You're an extremely grounded woman. But I love your understanding of energy work and the less known aspects of how to navigate feeling peaceful and joyful. And tell me how you got to that place yourself and how things have unfolded quite recently, this last year. And everything just came together beautifully for you, because I know it has been.
Well, I'll quickly touch upon the Daisy story, because that will certainly help people make sense as to why I've called my business that, Daisy Chick. Yeah. And it was actually back in 2003 that I guess you could say, my Daisy journey began. And at the time, I was, again, in a really difficult stage in life. I had just ended a very abusive relationship, and I dearly needed, again, a life shift. And, oftentimes I've noticed in my own life, and maybe some of the listeners have as well, is oftentimes when we're seeking or going through the transitions, life just jumps in and helps us out. And it certainly did in my case. And what happened is I was invited to Whistler by a group of friends to participate in a mountain biking event, which I did. And on that trip, we took on new monikers or nicknames as mountain biking persona. And near Whistler, there's a lake called Daisy Lake. So for the purposes of that event, I became Daisy Gonzalez, pet psychologist. We also had fake professions.
Nice.
And at the time, I didn't think anything of it. It's only in hindsight that I realized how critical it was for me and how helpful it was for me to have this kind of new Daisy identity. Because after that trip, I continued with that identity. And it was a bit of a break between the person I was in that past relationship and living that life to stepping into this new Daisy identity. And I really went with it, and my friends did as well. So they started giving me Daisy paraphernalia and all sorts of things. And then I called my bed and breakfast a Wild Daisy. When I left on my RV trip, I put Daisy decals all over it and called it Miss Daisy. So there was this recurring theme. But what I noticed, particularly after I left Ottawa in Miss Daisy, was that daisies took on a deeper meaning and symbolism for me and became almost like my spirit. I consider daisies my spirit guides. Not only are they a very joyful flower, but they have come to me in very synchronous moments or with powerful messages, sometimes astounding circumstances. And you know the story of how I met my partner last December that was probably the wildest Daisy moment ever.
Tell us a little bit about that, because I love that story for all you singles out there
Yeah.
who ask for a symbol.
That's right. Well, what happened is I had been...
I'd like to just say I played quite a big part in this because I am an advocate of online dating and have coached quite a few people through the process of going online to date. And I know Heather showed incredible resistance to going online, but somehow I managed to crack open the slightest, smallest potential of doing it, if you remember.
That's true. I was initially a little hesitant to go online, and I dabbled with it a little bit earlier last year, and was slowly honing my skills and I think an aptitude to online dating. I think there is a bit of it's a process.
Absolutely, that's why I coach people through it.
Yeah, absolutely, it's a process. And I'd reached the point in the fall where I was very clear on the type of person I was looking for and what I wanted and that sort of thing. Yet at the time, that was about October, November, I think, I had pressed kind of the pause button. I was still on eHarmony at the time, but I had some other priorities at the time. I was going to wait until January, February to sort of re-engage until I got this message from this woman who sounded fairly interesting and fairly lovely. And we did chat very briefly before deciding to meet for a coffee in Victoria. When we met, she seemed lovely enough. We chatted easily and so on. And she had given me a heads up in one of our previous conversations, that she had a fun little story that she wanted to share with me. Now, I need to preface this story by saying at the time, she had no idea how obsessed I am with Daisy. She had no idea of my Daisy story or history or any of that.
No, there was no social media contact.
There was
nothing.
There was
strangers
nothing.
sitting in a coffee shop.
Yeah, we were people who had just met in a coffee shop. So we get into the coffee and chat, and I ask her to tell me this story. So she began to share that about a month or so earlier, she had been at an event at a beach in Victoria, and she had gone through her own online dating process and got to the point where she wanted some help for the universe. So she asked for a sign from the universe and said, "Universe, this is my sign. When the right person for me comes along, please show me this sign." And she drew this symbol in the sand. So we're sitting at the table at this cafe, and she's telling me this, and I wasn't registering at all. And she pulls this piece of paper out of her wallet and plunks it on the table and says, "This is what I drew in the sand." And it was no one should be surprised right now, it was a daisy. And I
immediately opened your eyes. Yeah.
I froze because I wasn't sure what kind of witchcraft was going on or what had just happened, because it was, as I said, the wildest daisy moment of my life to imagine. I had a long list of requests from the universe in terms of what I wanted in a person. I did not think to say, I want someone who shows me a daisy or even likes daisies. So I did not see that coming.
Wonderful. I love that. So you met and you've immediately clicked. And of course, you're in a wonderful relationship with her now.
Yes.
And this year's been quite transforming for you. You've been through your own process of business growth and development. And then you decided to tell us how it came about opening the Daisy Shop.
Well, it's a bit of a divergence for me because, as you mentioned, I have been doing coaching for several years. I recently became a HeartMath mentor, so I've been coaching people on that as well. And last year, I knew I wanted to venture into developing an online business. And like many people out there, and I have the coaching skills, the first thought that come to my mind was, I'll develop an online coaching course, and was actually headed in that direction up until very recently, when it became clear that that was not a path I was really going to enjoy. And one thing I've honed over the years is to really tune into what my heart is telling me. And it can be very tempting when lots of people around you are developing a certain kind of idea or doing a particular thing or a certain kind of business to follow the crowd. And I think you're getting the idea that I'm not that person who just because other people are doing it, that's the thing for me. So I hit the pause button at one point and just thought, this isn't feeling right. I need to look at what's going on here. And I took a pause to work on a creative project. And I had already had a bit of an idea of maybe some t-shirts and things circulating in the background. And I started doing some paintings for a local cafe, just some fun signs to put on the yard. And a couple of people said to me, "Oh, those are really cool designs. I'd love that on a t-shirt." And it just clicked, was that that's what I needed to do. That I am very passionate about, helping people live more joyfully, helping them connect with their heart, helping them to find more fun and play in their life. And that's not the kind of thing I realized I wanted to present in a course, or that's even worth presenting in a course, that creating fun products and t-shirts and all that kind of thing was for me a far more powerful and enjoyable way to do the same kind of thing.
Yeah. So you've started this shop and you've got all kinds of different products.
Yes.
You started off with t-shirts and signs. Is that right? Tell us what you've got on in the shop.
Well, the signs I painted for a local cafe. So those were a creative commission project. What I've got in the Daisy Shop right now, and I'm just getting rolling with this, are a few t-shirts. One in particular that is very popular with people is the Believe design, and that's the one I'm wearing today.
Looks lovely.
And there are some tote bags and mugs and a few other items right now. I will be adding to the to the shop as I go along. But I just want to make sure, in particular, to get this design, the Believe design, in there because many people are already asking for it.
Absolutely. And it's gorgeous.
Thank you.
And the messages you put out always make me smile. And I know that a lot of people are going to enjoy your products. Right now, I just want to point out, if you go to Heather's Etsy shop, which is
The Daisy Shop Canada.
The Daisy Shop Canada. The Daisy Shop Canada on Etsy. You can get 20% off on any of her products. So that's worth mentioning because that's kind of exciting. How long is that going to go on for?
That's going to go on till, right now I've got it running till July 11th. I'm probably going to continue it because I feel like I'm a generous...
Till the end of July.
Yeah, probably till the end of July.
Yeah, because this show is also going to go out in a couple of weeks, so we want to make sure we get those dates
Yeah.
right. So if you're interested in buying any Daisy products, I know there's lots of people that have different flowers, and I know loads of people that have an affinity to daisies. So I think this is going to be a huge success. And I just want to honour you two for diving in and following your heart and pursuing a career that really is out there and calling yourself a daisy chick. I mean, just seeing you driving around town makes me smile because I love your car full of daisies. And in fact, there isn't a time I don't see a daisy and think of you.
And that's what, you're not the only person who've said that. And that makes me quite happy. Thank you for saying that, which is in part the name for my business, That Daisy Chick. I called it that very deliberately because there would be, when I fast forward to the end of my lifetime, if that's written on my
Epitaph,
then here lies that daisy chick, or I was known as that daisy chick, that would make me really happy.
So if you had an inspirational thing to give you listeners who are stuck in their lives, really not sure what they want to do, in dead-end jobs that perhaps they're doing very well at, what would be your one little quote or bit of advice for anyone listening who needs a little nudge in faith?
Absolutely. I actually just wrote a blog post. It's on my website. I just published it this morning, thatdaisychick.com, entitled, "You Don't Need to Know Where You're Going." And the subtext is, you only need to believe in the direction you're heading. And that goes back to a bit of my own story about leaving Ottawa and just following my heart. I had no idea where I would land, and I certainly did not foresee I would land here on Salt Spring Island with, everything else that I have in my life right now, a life that is entirely different than where I started. So I think it's what I mean by that is you don't need to know exactly where you're going, is to just tune into
what would make you happy and take some first steps.
Exactly. And what your heart is calling you towards, and just move in that direction. Yeah.
Because life is short, my friends, and we're all living in this moment and crafting our lives. So craft away a life that fills you up and makes you feel excited to get out of bed. And that's not going to be every day. Nobody expects to feel excited every day. We're going to be unwell. Things are going to happen. Nobody's suggesting some nirvanic experience. But I will say that really enjoying where you live and being in a community that lines up with your values, and then living in a space of gratitude, you do draw, it just naturally happens vibrationally. You do draw in more of that. And it's a pretty nice way to live. It's not for everyone. Other people love living in a state of drama and the excitement of the unknown, and that's completely fine too. Like, there's no wrong or right. But I hope you've really enjoyed Heather as much as I've really enjoyed her story today. If there's anyone out there that would like to contact her or me, please do email me at figsandhoney@me.com. You can always reach me through my website, which is www.figsandhoney.com. I'm a holistic therapist, and I do coaching and energy work and all sorts of other body work things to help people live their best lives, just like Heather's doing and countless others. Lots of searchers here on Salt Spring looking for that. And thank you so much for listening, and really appreciate you tuning in for today's show. Thank you. Thanks, Heather.
Thanks for having me.